Aloha guys, you're watching JRTV. Trying to highlight some issues specific to the Hawaiian Islands, some political matters, and right now we're on the Iolani Palace grounds, which were in effect the property that the kingdom used in order to operate. And here is the burial ground of one of their previous kings. And I might add that, you know, I personally don't label people as kings. I label them as their first name basis. You know, they may have been a ruler for a period of time, but even like this guy over here, you know, he was just a human, and in fact he killed many people in order to quote unquote unite people. And as we know, nobody wants a monarchy. It's anti-democracy. It's all about concentration of power and all about who's related to, and a very animalistic way of being. And it's also to be cautioned, anyone who believes and has Christian values, to question if they really want the hero savior the Bible describes, who is, you know, interested in this kingdom idea and is disinterested in equal rights towards LGBT, and doesn't seem to have show any enthusiasm about women and the vagina, which I think is important to do, even if you're homosexual, you know, to celebrate that politically correct woman. And right now we're about to see the palace here. This marvel stands between, you can see the skyscrapers in the background. These are royal palm trees, a very elegant sight, of course. And this is the first building, I believe, in the country to have certain things like electrical power, and maybe even the first to have like I think it was a telegraph or something. So it is a special place, and I believe it's the room right up on this side of the building. That's where the queen, quote unquote, was, or I should say Miss Liliuokalani, because I don't refer to people as a queen or something. She, you know, she was in prison there. She decided to, you know, forfeit the kingdom because she didn't want her people to die in a battle that they were out, you know, the Americans had guns. So I want to look into that a little bit, look into this idea of countries, you know, taking over places and natural resources and valuable lands, and also the idea of forcing people to change their culture and trying to improve the world. And also I want you to note some of the master craftsmanship in the glass here. You look carefully, you can see the etched glass here, the ladies dressed up. I mean, it's just a, you know, look at that. Also take a look at the little old mirrors there they have. So, you know, special place. I've been in it. It has the library with old books and everything, and it's nice. But what I must say, alright guys, is that my concern regarding this whole issue of the, you know, how do you give to the lands that were taken away, particularly to the ethnicities, like whether it's Native American, Native Hawaiian, or maybe even the African Americans who were slaves and unpaid, however, helped to aid and build the country with their laborers. So what do you do in these instances, right? Well, I'll suggest that in the instance of of Hawaii, I think the appropriate measure is to not, to the extent possible, not perpetuate this idea of if you have Hawaiian ethnicity, you have privileges, because all it does is create an ongoing strife. And so I think there should be a quicker payout, if you will, and that might, and also land given to them, just like the reservations in the U.S., the mainland America. You know, what could be done is we could let me see here for a second. What we could do is we could actually give them the Big Island. I think that would be a great thing where they could have and they would have to operate their own, you know, legal system and currency and do trade, and you know, of course, obviously want to have hotels, and most likely want to keep the telescope because it would help to bring in income and provide a basis for people to live. And so what I'm going to suggest is that maybe the U.S. Navy could protect the outer waters to ensure that the rest of the islands, including the Big Island, were carefully protected. However, these little details need to be worked out, and so I'm going to look back into the history, so we can learn from it. I already mentioned the actual effect of the takeover, and that it was, you know, it was an ugly thing, which, you know, it's not like it was an unoccupied, unsophisticated place. They did have a constitutional monarchy. It was, you know, they were doing trade, and it was a well-established place. There were missionaries that had an influence, and I'm about to show you guys the church that was, see, the dark side of this whole monarchy is this idea of authority, and there's a term, divine appointment, and in different terms that imply that somehow or another one people are superior to another. You can see the crest here with the in the background there. So part of the issue is, you know, when you identify, right, with different, you know, if you are, quote unquote, of Native Hawaiian blood, that you identify with this idea that somehow, you know, you're owed something, or there's entitlement, that all that does is create a negative, a reason for people to not be democratic, to expect things and not pursue capitalistic endeavors. I mean, what happened was, you know, these people were taken advantage of. They had a natural resource, sandalwood. Marijuana can be grown here. The sandalwood was stolen, basically. It sold at such a cheap price to the Chinese people. There are different issues at hand. You know, you just briskly make my way here. You know, the people, right? The people. That's another state building there. Okay, the people, the women wore nothing to cover up their nipples and breasts. And so in a way that was disrespectful, you know. And so they but like I was saying earlier, this whole idea of church and authority, it's like you can have a collaboration of people who build buildings and, you know, are together but see each other as equals instead of this hierarchical. You know, it's all primitive in my opinion if you really examine it. This idea of father, son, uncle, nephew, what else? You know, pastor, clergy. It's antiquated. It doesn't, you know, in this day and age, everyone at a certain age, maybe 21, maybe 25, they're intelligent enough to operate on their own being. It's important to note that these stones are about 1,000 pounds each, and they were actually taken from the ocean down that way, and they were dragged over here. You know, so this is an unusual building, and you can see this declaration to the, you know, born in Bennington, Vermont, 1780, died in 1860, aged 80 years. This guy, missionary. I don't know, you know. The bottom line is things happen. You know, they happen over time. But we have to deal with this day and age of, you know, democratic equality, egalitarian relationships, the fairness, communication. They were quarried underwater, more than 1,000 pounds. You know, this is a pretty cool structure. It just reminds people of. And then if we go over here, of course, right? We got the future, right? You know, one of the arguments is it's an anti-people, you know, anti-construction kind of mentality, and I think more people should be able to live here. I think they should develop the Big Island and allow the people to operate it, that want to have this different. You know, I obviously I don't think it should be a monarchy, but it should be like a democracy with perhaps different rules. Like if you actually look into the history there, I'm guessing there were more executions. If people, and I believe in execution, especially for the criminally insane, and for people like who commit serious crimes like rape. You know, it's it's time to reincarnate. You know, so they also had other laws where men and women. I'm a fan of this. Men and women had to sit separately. It was actually a law in the Hawaiian kingdom, you know. And this guy, I believe, Prince Lunalilo. I'm trying to remember if it was him or one of them. You know, some of these, the more recent ones that passed away, were really appreciated because they tried to, you know, they tried to perpetuate hula and other Hawaiian. Unfortunately, that all that was preserved. You know, the language, everything was preserved, right? But what I must say, guys, is that, in conclusion, is that something has to be done besides from this perpetuating drama of giving tax break. I mean, of course, I think they shouldn't pay property tax on certain things, but just this whole idea of perpetuating like all these entitlements for people who the less fortunate, or not the less fortunate, but the native Hawaiian people. This is interesting. This is actually a memorial for the veterans of World War II over here. So, does it require war, in order to have peace in the world? Let's take a look at this for a second. It says honoring Americans who died that the beauty and freedom of our land might be preserved for all humanity. And so yeah, these are my thoughts, guys. More to analyze, more to consider. But those are my thoughts and immediate solutions, and towards a better world. And that's obviously, it starts with where I myself am living. Thank you for considering, and aloha.